So you run a combo truck, but you need something that's compact, and you don't necessarily want to sacrifice on power, debris tank capacity, or water capacity. You need something that's that Goldilocks right in the middle. This is a truck that you need to check out. This is a Vac-Con SE5 Combo Truck. Now, we have full power capacities. This has got a 5 cubic yard debris tank and 1,000 gallons of water. I want to show you the details, so stick around. Let's get into it. With any Vac-Con combo truck or Hydrovac, it's really important to understand we build everything customized to fit the customer's needs. So we don't have a Model A or a Model B and then slap option content on the deck. We build this truck out to be completely fit for your application, and you get to work with the specs with us, and we don't have anything on this truck that looks like an afterthought. Everything's customized to fit this customer's needs. So with that being said, we build single engine trucks and dual engine trucks. This is a single engine. We build trucks that run a fan vacuum system or a PD blower vacuum system. This runs a PD. We can modify any of those to make sure that we got a truck that's going to be right for your application. Like I said, single engine PD on this one. Now, the other thing that can really be customized when it comes to a Vac-Con combo truck is the control system. So we don't have one dead set control system. We don't lock you into running a computer system. We don't lock you into running a full physical wired, hardwired system. We can choose either one. Now, this customer built out the truck with classic controls. So that's gonna be full hardwired control system. Everything is completely hardwired. You have physical switches and analog gauges. So that way you don't have to have a computer system on this. We can run dual joysticks on the same exact reel. This is just classic controls. So when we look at this reel, kind of starting up front here, they went with a 600-foot articulating hose reel. So before the Pro reel ever came out, this had the best work area in the industry. The Pro reel is obviously a lot different, but with this articulating hose reel, it articulates a full 180 degrees, and you can pick the pivot point. So this is our standard pivot, and it's gonna articulate to the driver's side of the truck. You can also choose to articulate it to the curb side if you're doing more stormwater work. This is set up as our standard pivot going over to the driver's side, which is really popular with customers that are running more sanitary style, or maybe they might be doing both, but they run driver's side most of the time when they're running their reel. So with the control panel, we do everything very simplistic for good reason. We don't want to overcomplicate these trucks. We want the operation to be as simple as possible. So we have our vacuum system down at the lowest portion of the control panel. This gives you the ability to run any chassis RPMs that you want on the truck. So you have full control over the chassis RPMs. Then you can stroke the vacuum system in 4 different levels. You have a quarter, half, 3/4, and full. Now on the water side, you run it the exact same way. So we are running a single engine, water, vacuum, and hydraulics are all running off the chassis engine, but I can choose my chassis level and I can stroke that water pump in 4 intervals, 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, or full. So I have complete control over the truck just from the control panel here. I've got a water pressure gauge. I've got my full boom joystick control system where I can go up, down, left, right, or telescope in and out. I have my hose reel articulation switches, and then with any standard articulating reel with Vac-Con, we have a stabilizer leg or an outrigger leg. Now this gives you extra support. So if you imagine going and hitting a blockage and not having that support with the reel articulated away from the truck, it would get to bouncing pretty quick. So with this stabilizer leg, it gives you a nice, constant, stable platform at the front of the truck when you're jetting lines. The only other thing that they added on the control panel here is a low water alarm. So not only does that flash red when you get low water, but an alarm also sounds that tells you, hey, it's time to get that nozzle back. But you have the ability of flipping that off. So as soon as you get that low water alarm notification, that alarm starts going off, I can switch that off so I don't have to listen to it the whole time. So that's just something that's nice and convenient up front. I have a mechanical footage counter on the front of the reel, and my payout and retrieve for my hose reel is right up top. And I have full control over the max speed through this valve next to it. So I can set my max speed setting and have proportions, choose that speed in which I want to pay out and retrieve that hose. Now, getting back to customizations, one big thing that not a lot of people talk about is how customizable a water system can be for each customer. It really depends on the application that you have, the size of the pipe that you're cleaning, if it's sanitary, if it's storm. And this customer went with 3/4 inch hose, 50 gallons per minute at 3,000 PSI. Some other really popular water systems are going to be, your small 30 gallon per minute, 3,000, 60 at 3, 80 at 2, 80 at 2,500. We can modify the truck to have any water system that fits your needs. Now, the nice thing about 50 at 3, if you're cleaning 8-inch, 12-inch, even up to 24-inch pipe, you can go with 3/4 inch hose. So that 3/4 inch hose is going to be a lot easier to handle through your level wind guide. So if I'm running 3/4 inch hose, I'm running a manual level wind guide. I have complete control over that hose by hand. I don't really have to worry about much because it's not that heavy. As soon as you jump up to 1-inch hose, you're running 60 at 3, 80 at 2, 80 at 2,500. We do have automatic level wind guide, which is an option, but manual level wind guide is great for somebody that wants to be hands-on here. Let's talk about the boom. So instead of a 10-foot telescopic boom, on this truck they went with a little bit more simplicity. This is a 6-foot telescopic boom, which is our short boom option. We can run 10-foot or 6-foot. The nice thing about either one of those booms with Vac-Con, we get the telescopic portion of the boom, but we have 230 degrees of rotation. We do not limit the customer out to 180 degrees of rotation. That way, if you get those weird jobs where you do have to rotate farther off, maybe you're going to a lift station, you got to get over a fence, you have that extra rotation if you need it. Now, the way that this boom is stored on the truck, there's a headache rack behind the cab. That boom sits on top of that headache rack. That supports it vertically from any up and down movement. Then there's a top hat here on the curb side of the truck where that boom fits right onto that top hat. I call it Abe Lincoln's top hat. It looks just like Abe Lincoln's top hat, fits on top of that. I can clamp that boom into place. That's going to support it from any horizontal movement. So you have a complete boom tie down there. It's a little bit different than the old school Vac-Con way of tying things down, but it's very, very simplistic, and it gets that job done of tying the boom down and not getting any boom sway. Now let's talk chassis. We can put the Vac-Con body on any chassis brand you prefer. So you like Kenworth, you like International, Mack, Peterbilt, Freightliner, Western Star. We can do any of those chassis brands to make sure we get you what you want. Now, if you're looking for quick lead times, we stock Freightliner and Western Star in-house. So that's going to be our quickest lead time to build you a brand new truck. But if you want to do a custom order with us, if you want to order from a local dealer that you get great support from, we can do it. So these guys went with a local dealership and they went with the Kenworth T480. So this is going to be paired with the PX9 PACCAR engine, 370 horsepower, Allison 3000 RDS automatic transmission. And the interior is awesome, but the coolest thing in my opinion about this chassis is these guys love the Kenworth dark green. So they got their chassis painted the Kenworth dark green and told us at Vac-Con, hey, we want the Vac-Con body to match that cab perfectly. So we went in with that paint code. This entire truck is a nice Kenworth dark green, which came out looking pretty sharp in my opinion. Now, talking about paint colors, we can do any non-metallic paint color that you choose, and it's very simple for us to match colors, to pick the exact color you want, regardless of what chassis brand you have. Now, talking about chassis brands, I mentioned the quick lead times. If you have that Freightliner or Western Star, you're looking for something quick, you're going with one of our trucks on the ground. We do not order those trucks to come in bare bones. We pick some specified option content that we feel fits most customers' needs. So we do an air ride cab, dual air ride seats, power windows, power mirrors, heated mirrors, Bluetooth radio, cruise control, interaxle lock. You've got all the bare necessities, and that Freightliner 114 SD Plus has a nice new interior as well. So even though this Kenworth is killer and I love the paint, just keep in mind, you need something quick, Freightliner and Western Star is the way to go. When you're building your new truck, the easiest things to configure are going to be lights, cameras, tool storage, and pipe storage. So with lights, we can light this thing up like a Christmas tree if you want to. So as far as warning lights goes, these guys did 2 strobes on the boom. They did strobes out the back, and they did some strobes around the body with a arrow stick on the back door. We can go a lot more than that. You can do a lot less than that. It's completely up to you. It's customizable. With floodlights, most people that are doing early morning work or night work go ahead and do floodlights all around the truck. Now, this one doesn't have a ton of floodlights, but what I do on my trucks is floodlights on the boom, floodlights on either side, and floodlights out the back. It really depends on the type of work you're doing and how many lights you want on the truck. Now, as far as tool storage goes, I'm a big tools guy. I think my truck's as good as the tools that I'm carrying to do the job that I need to do. With our standard toolbox, we run a 16 by 42 by 96 inch toolbox as our standard. So you get the long handle storage. If you have hydro excavation, you can keep those lances tucked into that box there under lock and key. And that's your main box. Anything after that are going to be add-ons that you can add anywhere as long as you have enough space to do it. So on tandem axle units, saddle boxes off the rear are really popular, but we run a deck at Vac-Con. So any extra deck space you have, you can add extra tool storage if you need to. This is a huge box though. So on a truck this size, I'm really happy with having a 16 by 42 by 96 inch box. I'm going to use that as my main storage in my opinion. So that's what they went with. With pipe storage, you can run multiple style pipe racks. Now, our standard pipe racks are going to be what we call the J-hook pipe rack, where it's just a steel J-hook, the pipe fits onto it, and you can either bungee it or stainless steel Kevlar cover, wrap it into that J-hook, keep it in place. The most popular pipe rack that we have that everybody loves is a Lazy Susan pipe rack. So you got 5 pipes on a rotating carousel that sits on the deck. The reason people love it is it's mechanical, it's hard to break, and it's lightweight aluminum. So you can rotate those 5 pipes around in a small location, get that pipe you need, and take it off. But we also have folding pipe racks where you can put it off the curb side of the debris tank or off the back door of the debris tank, completely up to how much pipe you need on the truck, really how deep you have to go. With any Vac-Con combo truck or hydrovac, we really think about water storage. So on this truck, we have 1,000 gallons of water. We've got these water tanks that are below the truck. So I've got 2 tanks here. I've got 2 tanks on the other side. And then I've got a small tank up on the sides of the debris tank on either side. These water tanks come up to here in the frame. So 80% of my water is below the frame of the truck, giving me the lowest center of gravity possible on any combo truck in the market. So that's a huge thing. I drive around long distance with my lower water tanks almost full of water or halfway full of water, knowing that it's giving me some extra support down there, and it actually gives an even better ride than when it's completely empty because the water's stored low. Now, with the water pump that we're running, we run a triplex water pump. This is going to be a giant, but that triplex water pump is important because it gives you smooth, continuous flow and pressure at all times. We never have any pulsation or jackhammer. We want smooth, continuous flow and pressure. We want to provide that nozzle with the flow and pressure it needs to break that blockage, to clean that line. Chain cutters, saws, we want to provide those things with smooth, continuous flow and pressure at all times, not give it the pressure, take it away, give it back again. So that's something we really believe in at Vac-Con. One analogy I like to tell people, or I guess it's an analogy, but a story I like to tell, is if you have a spinning nozzle that you use, and that spinning nozzle gets a little old and maybe it doesn't spin as well as it used to. Maybe it starts spinning around 2,000 PSI. We're running 50 at 3 here. So at 2,000 PSI, that's when that head actually gets up to speed and starts spinning. If I set this truck to 2,200 PSI and I start cleaning that line, most of the time I don't get to see what's going on unless I got the camera truck in front of me. If I'm not providing smooth and continuous flow and pressure, that spinning head might get up to speed, slow down and stop. Get up to speed, slow down and stop. With a smooth, continuous flow and pressure water pump, I'm providing 2,200 PSI. It's spinning the entire time I need it to. So we want the nozzle to do that job of cleaning the pipe, breaking the blockage. We're just providing that nozzle with the flow and pressure that it needs. This truck has 4 total places that we can send water. We've got the front jet hose where we have that 3/4 inch hose where we can clean lines with it. We have a low pressure handgun, which is going to get 750 PSI max. Then we have the high pressure or the hydro excavation circuit, which is going to get the full pressure of the pump. So on this one, we're running 3000 PSI. We get 3000 PSI out of that hydro excavation system. We also have a debris tank flush out, which gives you 8 jets in the back of the debris tank. When you bring it to power, it gets all the way up to 3000 PSI through all of those jets. 6 of the jets are pointed back to undercut material and slide that material out of the tank. And then you have a jet on either side, which is kind of bringing all that material from the sides out as well. So front jet hose, low pressure, high pressure, debris tank flush out are the 4 places we send water on this truck. If we want to run any of the accessory water systems, which would be low pressure, high pressure, debris tank flush out, we have a ball valve associated with them on a manifold on the curb side of the truck. That way you're not going around and searching for a ball valve to bring water somewhere. They're all in one easy location. They're all labeled and easy to find and get to. That way you can get your low pressure, high pressure, debris tank flush out powered up, pressurized real quickly. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that this truck is running a PD blower for the vacuum system. Now, in detail, this is running a Roots 824 RCS PD blower. So when we run that vacuum system, we have a cyclonic separator here. So we would clean this out when we dump. You can use your low pressure handgun. There's a slant inside where everything runs right out of it. Now, an important thing about running the PD blower versus the fan is you want to make sure that you're keeping that system very clean, wetting down material anytime you're vacuuming, and making sure that you're vacuuming at the right level. Sometimes fast isn't always good. And that's with any truck that runs a PD blower. Same thing with a fan. That's just the nature of running a combo truck. Now, one thing that's unique about Vac-Con is the way that we use automatic overfill protection. So you can see that there's an arrow up here on the debris tank. That arrow is tied to a float ball inside the tank. We do not depend on any float ball to close vacuum off inside the tank. What we use is an external system for automatic overfill protection. So if I was vacuuming up at a lift station and I was really close to full, as soon as I get to 100% full, that float ball is connected to that arrow. That arrow is going to hit a limit switch out here on side of the debris tank. That's going to close my vacuum breaker door. So that vacuum breaker door is external from the debris tank, and there's a valve that closes and seals off vacuum. When it's open, it allows me to vacuum, but that's automatic. So anytime that float ball reaches full vacuum, that limit switch is going to close that vacuum breaker door. Now, it does 2 really important things for the system other than automatic overfill protection. It also gives the operator complete control over that vacuum breaker door. So if you went down into a catch basin, there's a big brick or a big rock down there, we can be at full vacuum, suction down on that rock, lift it up out of the hole, and bring it off to the side. I don't need to turn my vacuum down. I don't need to turn my vacuum off. I hit my vacuum breaker switch, it closes that valve, and the rock falls off. I hit my vacuum breaker door open, it opens up, I'm back to full vacuum immediately. That way I'm never having to turn down RPMs, turn down vacuum, or turn anything off. It's just sealing that vacuum momentarily for you to get that rock off. The last thing it does is, let's say you have 2/3 of debris in your debris tank and you go to drive off. As soon as you disengage that parking brake, vacuum breaker door closes. That way that material can't slosh forward into your filtration. Now, getting a good look at the back door here, one thing I didn't mention before that you can see here is the reflective striping. Now, we talked about paint a lot. That paint is your color that you pick that are on the hose reel. This one has it on the cab, the sides, the debris tank, and the back door. But we always provide a reflective stripe in the color that you choose as well. So if I picked a black stripe, it shines white at nighttime. This white stripe shines white at nighttime. It's reflective. So that's something we do on all of our trucks. Also on the interior of the body, we use textured black paint. That way you have a paint that's thicker than normal paint that's sitting on the body. So we do that as a standard. Now, the back door itself has that V striping on the back just for safety. But to give you an example of the build quality of a Vac-Con, this wedge lock is just as thick enough to get my fingers around it, and that's about it. So you got really nice big wedge locks on the back door, and those are all positive locks. So you don't have any other safety latches that you need to hit on the back door. When this door opens up, the wedge locks will rise, and there's 2 cylinders that control the door open function. Now those two cylinders are riding in oval shaped receivers. What that gives me the ability to do as an operator is I can crack this door open slightly and make a nice clean pile, or I can open the floodgates and let everything go. But I have nice, good control over that door to feather it in that first about 6 inches to a foot, to where I don't have to just let everything go. I can make a nice, neat pile and do a controlled dump. Another thing to point out, arrow stick is back here and a decant valve. So we have different style decant valves. We also have any location that you want. This is our standard location for the decant valve. Everybody always looks at this decant valve and says, man, that's really high. Well, this debris tank tilts over 50 degrees. So when I tilt this debris tank up and I'm decanting, I'm only missing the very bottom corner where I'm hopefully going to hold a lot of debris in it. Now, if you wanted to add an additional decant at the lowest portion of the door, you can. The reason why we keep our standard location a little bit higher is it's less likely to get clogged. The lower you put a decant valve, the more likely it is to get clogged. So if I did put one lower mounted, I would actually put a flush out valve on it. So I can take a low pressure fitting that I would take my low pressure system to, plug it in, back flush that valve, and make sure I keep it open. I don't necessarily need it at my top valve up here, but if I did have a lower valve, I would definitely recommend that. Another quick thing is cone storage. These guys went with a rear mounted cone rack. So we got a cone rack right off the back bumper here, where it's really easy to get the cones on and off, and it's out of the way. It's not taking up any deck space. We have multiple cone rack locations and types. So we can do one that's deck mounted that hinges off the deck. We can do one that's just straight deck mounted. You're on a tandem axle, we can put them between the bogies, in between those tires in the back, or you can still go rear mounted off the bumper here. That's completely up to you guys and where you like to keep your cones. Now on the driver's side over here, we've got our Lazy Susan pipe rack, which I mentioned before. We got 5 racks for pipes. Those rotate around nice and easy. And I've got my PD blower here. Now, this is a Roots 824, like I said. So 8-inch gear, 24-inch lobe. Now we drive this PD blower different than a lot of people in the industry. We run this PD blower hydrostatically. One thing that we are able to do since we run the PD blower hydrostatically is we can set the PD blower in a place that makes sense on the maintenance side. So I've got a sight glass facing out towards me over here on the driver's side. And I've also got my plenum down here. So instead of mounting this PD blower vertically in the middle of the truck, since I run it hydrostatically, I can mount that PD blower horizontally and have my sight glass out. Now that plenum is like an emergency clean out port. But not only that, when we're pulling vacuum through the system, this clean out port down here, that plenum, it's actually pulling air through it up into the PD blower. So that gives you a little bit of a catch there where that fine debris can settle out down there instead of just getting shot directly into the lobes of the PD blower. It's just something that's nice, that is the way we design things as a standard. That's not something that you have to tell us you want. That's something we do on all of our trucks that run PD blowers on the combo side. Some last few things here on the maintenance side. So I mentioned the deck earlier. The deck is really nice for the technicians or the guys that are working on the truck. That way you have somewhere you can stand up or sit down up on the deck, have enough working space around you, instead of just bolting floating pieces to a chassis frame where you have to, get into a tight area to work on something. The deck really gives you a lot more area to choose where you want to work on something from. Now, this panel on the driver's side of the truck houses all of the Vac-Con electronics. So we've got our power displacement module, our wireless remote transmitter, any of the fuses and electrical stuff that we are putting on the Vac-Con body is in a nice, easy location. It's easy to access, it's easy to find things just right behind that panel. Another thing on top of that is the cooling system of the truck. We don't cool this system with water. Our philosophy is we're using water out on the job. I don't want to have to depend on that water to cool my hydraulic system or my transfer case oil. I don't want to deal with that. We do air-cooled hydraulics. So we have a dedicated cooling fan just for our hydraulic system, and we have an additional smaller cooling fan just for our transfer case oil. So that way you never have to worry about overheating. It's not great when you're using water, but you have to think about keeping water on board so that when you go use hydraulic functions, you're able to cool the system. This completely takes that out of the operator's mindset. You're using the air, you don't even have to think about it. Thank you for tuning in and watching the video of this Vac-Con SE5 Combo Truck. If you have any questions at all, reach out and let me know. Before you head out, you should go ahead and click my face here if you want to go ahead and subscribe, or if you can't get enough Vac-Con John, you can go to this video right here and watch another one. I think you should do both. As always, work safe and buy Vac-Con.